What no one expected has just happened. Blake Lively, one of Hollywood's most influential actresses, has lost control in court after receiving a devastating decision from the judge for months. Lively had maintained a calculated strategy, trying to manipulate the narrative and present herself as the victim in this legal process. But now everything has fallen apart. The judge's decision has not only weakened her case, but has also exposed the inconsistencies in her testimony. And worst of all, the public no longer supports her. Blake, who used to be one of the most beloved figures in the industry, now faces a wave of criticism, scorn, and rejection like never before. But what really happened in court? Why did the judge's decision unleash such a furious reaction from Lively? Stay until the end, because what you are about to discover could mark the end of Blake's career. From the beginning of the Blake trial, Lively had carefully designed her legal and media strategy with a team of lawyers and public relations experts. She tried to construct a narrative in which she was the victim and Justin Baldoni, the aggressor. For months, she managed to control public perception by obtaining the support of some media outlets and Hollywood personalities. But the problem is that in a trial, it's not enough to control the narrative. Evidence is needed. When the court began to analyze each of Blake's statements, Blake's story began to collapse. Baldoni's lawyers presented compelling evidence that refuted her claims, demonstrating inconsistencies and contradictions in her testimony. This led the judge to make a decision that no one could have ever considered. In an unexpected twist, the judge dismissed a key part of Blake Lively's case. In blunt words, the judge declared that the evidence presented by her team was insufficient to support the most serious accusations. This is where everything falls apart. According to the court's rules, if a witness is proven to have lied on a single point in their testimony, the jury has the right to discard everything else they said. In this case, the evidence shows that Blake had altered or exaggerated several key details of her version of events. The impact of this decision was immediate. Lively's team was in shock. The media began to change the narrative, and the public began to question her story. It was at that moment that Blake Lively lost control. Witnesses inside the courtroom described Blake Lively's reaction as an explosion of fury. She raised her voice, argued heatedly with her lawyers, and in a moment of desperation, even interrupted the judge. Secret sources claim that Lively demanded different treatment, arguing that the judge's decision was unfair. She even insinuated that the court was being influenced against her, something that left everyone in the room speechless. What had once been a calculated and sophisticated defense was now a spectacle of desperation. The jurors and spectators in the courtroom saw a completely different Blake Lively than the public image she had built over years. The moment she realized her strategy had failed was devastating, and even worse, the media cameras were ready to capture it. All of this just hours after the judge's decision. The scandal exploded on social media. The public, who had long sympathized with Lively, began to turn their backs on her. Headlines in the mainstream media no longer spoke of her as the victim, but as the person who had tried to manipulate the system. On social media, the comments against her multiplied, and her follower count began to plummet rapidly. But the real sign that everything was changing came from Hollywood. Directors, producers, and actors who had previously supported her began to distance themselves. Some of her future projects were called into question, and major talent agencies began to reconsider their relationship with her. The problem wasn't just the trial. The problem was what this decision meant for her credibilities. In the industry, Hollywood doesn't forgive easily, and if Blake Lively lost the industry's support, her career could be in jeopardy. After Blake Lively's outburst in court, the media began to shift their focus on the case. If previously the news seemed to favor the actress, now the headlines spoke of her unexpected collapse and the judge's decision as a devastating blow to her credibility. Major news networks began to invite legal experts to analyze the situation, and most agreed that Blake's defense had made strategic errors. Some entertainment magazines that used to show their unconditional support for Lively now published articles questioning her attitude in court and the validity of her arguments. The public that consumes this news on social media began to notice the difference. The comments were no longer supportive, but rather questioning. Was it possible that Blake Lively had manipulated the case from the beginning? Had her public image been a well-constructed lie? The narrative was changing, and that meant an even bigger problem for the actress. One of the first impacts of this scandal was felt in the film industry. Hollywood is a place where reputation is everything. And now that Blake's image was in crisis, many production companies began to distance themselves. Sources close to some studios claim that certain projects in which Lively was involved have been indefinitely paused. Even her public relations team has had to step in to try to stop the downward spiral of her image, but the damage had already been done. Some directors who had worked with her in the past began to share unfavorable experiences about her behavior on film sets. What seemed to be an isolated problem was becoming a total crisis for the actress. The great fear in Hollywood was that this case could become another media scandal impossible to ignore, putting millions of dollars in future productions at risk. If the producers considered her a risk, her career could be closer to the end than she imagined. While the controversy surrounding Blake Lively grew, many expected her husband Ryan Reynolds to come to her defense. However, his reaction surprised everyone. Sources close to the actor claim that privately, Ryan has remained silent about the case, avoiding making comments that could implicate him more than necessary. On social media, his activity has been minimal, not mentioning a single word about his wife's trial. Some believe this attitude is a sign that Reynolds is trying to distance himself from the issue before his own image is affected. Others believe his advisory team has advised him not to speak out, as any statement could be used against him, regardless of his reasons. Ryan's silence has generated all kinds of speculation, and many wonder if the actor is truly willing to support Blake at this critical moment. Or does this mean that he also knows the truth is finally coming to light? As the days go by, Blake Lively's case continues to generate debate on social media. While some of her followers are still trying to defend her, others have begun to distance themselves, pointing out that her reaction in court was clear evidence of her desperation. Online polls show that the public's trust in the actress has fallen drastically. Fan accounts that previously supported her are now neutral or have even stopped following her. Even within Hollywood, some actors and actresses have avoided commenting on the issue, indicating that support for Lively is rapidly fading. The big dilemma is, can Blake Lively get out of this crisis? Some crisis management experts believe that if she can pull off a convincing twist, she still has a chance to save her image. However, others claim that with the amount of evidence against her and the way she reacted in court, her reputation has suffered a blow from which it will be almost impossible to recover. Now, the big question is, will Blake try to fight for her career, or will she simply disappear from the public eye? What began as a legal dispute has escalated into a true disaster for Blake Lively. Her outburst in court, the judge's decision, and the evidence against her have the public's perception of her has completely changed. Now, with Hollywood turning its back on her and her husband Ryan Reynolds keeping his distance, the actress finds herself in a more vulnerable position than ever. Producers no longer see her as a secure asset. The media has changed its narrative, and her credibility is at rock bottom. Are we witnessing the end of her career, or will she try to clean up her image and regain the public's favor? Blake Lively's story isn't over yet, but one thing is certain. The road back to the top will be more difficult than ever. What do you think? Do you think Blake Lively will be able to recover from this scandal, or is her image ruined forever? Leave us your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next updates on this case, which continues to be talked about.